Well, hello again everyone. Welcome back to another online assembly. And I hope you enjoyed the Harvest Festival last week, because I thought that you were all amazing. And I particularly enjoyed that naughty chicken. That was brilliant. Now let's start with our greeting. The Lord be with you. Thank you. And so today we're going to be thinking a bit more about how God keeps on forgiving us because of how much he loves us. But first we're going to listen to a new song, and in it we think about how big things are, all sorts of different things. But whatever we can think of, God's love is bigger. And so this song is called God's Love is Bigger Than a Burger.
God's love is bigger than a burger, it is bigger than a mouse, bigger than an elephant and bigger than a house, bigger than a bus and bigger than a tree, bigger than a mountain, bigger than the sea. What about a cloud? What about the sky? What about the earth? What about the moon? What about the sun? And what about the stars? Is anything bigger than this big love? No. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful, wonderful love. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful love, love, love. God's love is bigger than a burger, it is bigger than a mouse, bigger than an elephant and bigger than a house, bigger than a bus and bigger than a tree, bigger than a mountain, bigger than the sea. What about a cloud? What about the sky? What about the earth? What about the moon? What about the sun? And what about the stars? Is anything bigger than this big love? No. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful, wonderful love. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful love, love, love. Is this big love all big enough to handle all my doubts and worries? Is this big love all big enough to help with all my fears? Yes! Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful love. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful love, love, love.
Well, isn't that a great song? We must do that again sometime, mustn't we? And so we're now going to watch today's story time, and it's a video about another one of Jesus's parables, the stories that Jesus told, which had a special meaning. And this one is called The Parable of the Wicked Tenants.
Jesus was teaching in the temple. He told the religious leaders to listen to this story. A landowner planted a vineyard. He built a wall around the vineyard and dug a pit for crushing grapes. He also built a tower. The landowner rented the vineyard to some tenants and left the country. When it was time for the harvest, the owner sent some servants to go get his grapes. But the tenants grabbed the servants. They beat up one servant, killed another, and threw stones at the third.
So the owner sent more servants to his vineyard, but the tenants attacked them too. Finally, the owner sent his son. He expected the tenants to respect him, but the tenants threw the son out of the vineyard and killed him. Jesus asked, "When the owner comes back to the vineyard, what do you think he should do to those tenants?"
The religious leaders answered, "They deserve to die. The owner should rent the vineyard to people who respect him." Jesus replied, "Don't you know what the scriptures say? The stone that the builders tossed aside is now the cornerstone, the most important stone of all. God did this, and it is amazing to us."
Then Jesus said, "So I tell you, God's kingdom will be taken away from you and given to people who do what he commands. Anyone who trips over this stone will be broken to pieces, and this stone will crush anyone it falls on." When the religious leaders heard Jesus' story, they knew that Jesus was talking about them.
Jesus told this story to teach the religious leaders about himself. God sent his own son, Jesus, to earth, but the religious leaders rejected him. Jesus is the cornerstone, the most important one of all. Only he can save us from our sin.
Now, I once heard a story about when Thomas Edison was working to invent this crazy contraption called a light bulb. I don't know if ever you've come across a light bulb, have you? You have? Wow. Anyway, this light bulb, it took a whole team of men working for 24 hours to put just one light bulb together. And when Edison's team was finished with one light bulb, he gave it to a small boy to carry upstairs. So step by step, he carried it, afraid that he might drop this priceless piece of work. And of course, you can probably guess what happened. The poor boy dropped the bulb right at the top of the stairs, and it smashed into pieces. And so it took the team of men another 24 hours to make another light bulb. And then finally, tired and ready for a break, Thomas Edison was ready to have his bulb carried upstairs. And do you know what he did? He gave it to the same boy who dropped the first one. Now that is true forgiveness. Mr. Edison gave that boy another chance. And God offers us that same kind of forgiveness. He offers us a second chance and a third chance, and so on. Now, in that video we just watched, Jesus told a story about a man who owned some land, didn't he? He planted some grapes on the land and then rented it to some other men to take care of it for him while he was away. And when it came for time to harvest the crop, the landowner sent some of his servants to collect his share of the harvest. But the men who had leased the land beat up the man's servants and even killed one of them. They refused to give the landowner what they owed him. And then a second time, the landowner sent his servants to collect what was owed to him, and once again the servants were treated in the same way. And so finally, the landowner sent his own son to the tenants. He thought, surely they'll listen to my own son. But when they saw the son, they said, "Ah, this is the landowner's son. Let's kill him and take his inheritance." And then Jesus asked the men listening to his story, "What do you think the landowner will do to those men?" His listeners said, "Well, he'll destroy those wicked men and rent his land to someone else, who will give him his share of the fruit at harvest time." And in that story that Jesus told, the landowner was representing God. And God first sent men such as Noah and Moses and David and the prophet Isaiah and all sorts of other people who you'll have learnt about, to tell the people about how much he loved them and to call them to turn away from their wicked ways. But so many people wouldn't listen. And then finally, he sent his own son, Jesus. And you know what they did to him, don't you? Yeah, that's right. They crucified him. God gave them a chance. He gave them a second chance and a third. But when they rejected his son Jesus, that was their last chance. And he's our last chance too. Jesus, in fact, is our only chance. And so I'm now going to say a short prayer, after which we'll say the Lord's Prayer together. So let's pray. Dear Father, we thank you for sending us Jesus, your only Son. Help us to remember that he is our only chance to receive eternal life. Amen.
The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's assembly, and particularly that song about the burger. And I really look forward to being with you again next week. Have a great week, and I'll see you again. Bye!
God's love is bigger than a burger, it is bigger than a mouse, bigger than an elephant and bigger than a house, bigger than a bus and bigger than a tree, bigger than a mountain, bigger than the sea. What about a cloud? What about the sky? What about the earth? What about the moon? What about the sun? And what about the stars? Is anything bigger than this? Big love? No. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful, wonderful love. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful love, love, love. God's love is bigger than a burger, it is bigger than a mouse, bigger than an elephant and bigger than a house, bigger than a bus and bigger than a tree, bigger than a mountain, bigger than the sea. What about a cloud? What about the sky? What about the earth? What about the moon? What about the sun? And what about the stars? Is anything bigger than this? Big love? No. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful, wonderful love. Big and wonderful, big and wonderful, big and wonderful love, love, love. Is this big love all big enough to handle all my doubts and worries? Is this big love all big enough to help with all my fears? Yes! Big